Hi, my name is Austin. I am doing my 25,000 mile review living with a 3.0 liter diesel Yukon. This is the SLT version 4x4. So it's above like spot below or above the base model. So it goes the SLE for this year, it goes SLE, SLT, and then you get into your AT4 and Denali trims after that. So this is the SLT with the luxury package, which gives you things like heated and ventilated seats. It gets you power folding 60/40 third row seats, and some other luxury features. I believe the power mirrors are part of that package and some other items. So this has the 3.0 liter LM2 diesel engine in it. It's probably one of the best engines I've ever had in a vehicle, coming from things like the Lincoln Navigator, the Lincoln Aviator. I tried the gas version, the 6.2 liter V8, but if you're looking at Yukons or Tahoes or Escalades or Suburbans, then you'd know that there's a ton of issues with the gas engines, especially the 6.2 with engine failures and all that. So I specifically chose the diesel for the gas mileage before I had done more research and found out that the gas engines were having so many problems. And so I chose that. Real world gas mileage I get in this is around 20-21 city, and then up to 27 highway, depending on how much mountain climbing you're doing. So I live in Texas, it's pretty flat. And so on 2 different road trips, I drove from Central Texas to Northern Arizona, and I drove from Central Texas to Montana. In both of those, I was averaging somewhere between the realms on highway, including going up and down different grades, somewhere in the range of 25 to 27 miles per gallon on the highway. I drive kind of like a grandma, so if you drive a little bit more lead-footed, you're probably going to want to shave a number or 2 off that. I'll talk about some of the things about the car that I like. I'll switch around to the other view so you can see what that looks like. So something I did was I changed out the base rims that were the alloys to these black ones. That was just based off of my preference, and that the other ones had a lot of curb rash from the previous owner. So I inherited this, or purchased from one owner 2 years ago with around 22,000 miles on it. I've now got close to 45,000 or somewhere around there on here, and so that was one of the first upgrades I did. Was I changed out the rims. I kept the same rim size. I didn't go up in size because the tires were still in good condition. They're a very nice like city tire. They're Continentals, so they help with fuel economy and they also help with the ride. So I wasn't really obsessed with going any bigger because I really still wanted a decent ride. It has built-in non-power running boards. Those work really nicely. That's a common problem when I had a Navigator, the power deploying. I see them all the time. After a couple of years, the power deploying running boards seem to fail on those. So having just like standard ones is nice, especially with kids and all that. You don't have to worry about them opening the door and falling out too quickly. So I do like having them just standard. I think they blend pretty nice in my opinion. I didn't really go all out on deleting chrome. I think the chrome looks fine. And I've got this in a dark metallic blue, so at night it's definitely black because there's no light to shine on it. When the light's shining on it, you can definitely pick out the blue and almost like sometimes like purple flecks coming out of the paint. So I think it looks nice. The likes I have on this is I love the styling on this. That's the first thing that drew me to the Yukon over other choices, was the styling of it. I think it looks really sharp. I like the like C-shaped LED accents on it. I like the way the grille is. Upgrading the rims was definitely a nice addition in my opinion. I think it's got a very good look down here. It doesn't have that hearse look, and it's not too square and boxy on the end. They kind of did a little bit of a taper with the spoiler here that I think makes it look, if you've seen like the Grand Wagoneer and all that, I think they went too straight up and down. You do lose a little bit of head cargo room in the back because of that. I think it's you know, a good trade-off for the overall styling. The other thing I really like about the Yukon is because it is a diesel and it gets good gas mileage, it also gets good range. So I'm usually getting 400 to 500 miles a tank. If you're going on road trips, sometimes that number will go past 600. I'm the type of person that fills up with, I start looking at gas stations when I get to half a tank, so I don't really push it too far on that. But I think it's pretty nice to get that kind of ability if you need it. So it does have, part of the luxury package on this, it does have the kick to open. So by waving your foot under there, the rear tailgate will lift. So this is part of the power deploying, so you can, it doesn't have a one button like some competitors. This is one of my dislikes of the car that we'll get into later, is that second row can kind of be kind of funky with the power. But yeah, let me show you around the inside too. So mine has the like brown and kind of like this slatey cream color interior. I like it better than the black. I think it looks just a little bit more bright and a little bit more nice. The black can kind of feel kind of like Spartan and utilitarian, kind of blah when you have too much black going on in an interior. So I like that they did a like two-tone with a like brown and this tan, and it has this nice wood accent on here that I don't know if it's real or not, kind of feels a little fake, but I think it looks like a nice accent. The door cubbies are also really nice how they design them. I use them a lot, like wallet up here. You can put stuff down in here, especially if you're on a road trip and stuff. You want to put like your car keys and empty your pockets. The door is really nice. You can fit water bottles, even larger ones, down in here pretty well. And then you've got room for what I call the trash bag, but you can put all sorts of stuff down in there. So I think they did a really good design with the door, making it very useful, giving you different cubbies to put stuff in. And then inside, you've got this very deep center console. So it's huge. I fit diapers and wipes and extras for kids and stuff, and headphones and all sorts of stuff in there, and it just feels like it never runs out of room. The organizer in there is also very nice, that you've got like 3 different cubbies, and then you've also got like USB ports in there. I've got a wireless charging pad. It doesn't work very well. I feel like it has to be like the sun and moon have to align for your phone to work on it. That's just my experience with it. I use an iPhone with a MagSafe case, and it just yeah, I just don't think it works that well. The center stack I think was well designed overall. I like that it has physical buttons, even though I'm kind of a tech junkie. Having your AC controls manual is just so easy and convenient. My husband owned a Tesla at one point, and it was so annoying trying to change climate, especially if he was reversing and you're like, I'm dying of the heat here in Texas, and you want the air to blow, but he's trying to reverse. That was a total nightmare. So being able to have that in all physical controls, I think is really nice. I also like this GM feature where they split the heat from the back to the back or in the bottom, so you can just have it one place or another. On long car rides, sometimes I like to switch between heat and cooled, just to like keep my back kind of nice, and then cool it off later if it gets too warm. But even though this doesn't have massaging seats, sometimes it's nice just to turn the back one on and get that. I'll go over the dash when I turn the car on, but I don't have the panoramic sunroof in here. I didn't miss it too much. You know, every once in a while on a very nice spring day, it would have been nice to open it up. But in the summer, we leave them closed because they just boil the car. So that is one thing that I don't have that, you know, can be a miss. I do like partly as well this little cubby here. It's large enough for a pair of sunglasses, to go into. That's how I've used it, because they don't have a sunglass holder up here. So I've used that for that. Seats are pretty comfortable. Not the most comfortable. They're very, they definitely like keep you in the seat. They don't have like a lot of plushness to them, but they are a decent place to sit. I don't get too tired, especially after, you know, driving 13 hours in a day on some of my car trips. I don't have a lot of seat fatigue. They could be a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more plush, and have a little bit more bolstering here to kind of help keep your legs in it a little bit better, in my opinion. But overall, I'm happy with the seats. I like them. I like the color. I like the way they feel. And I think they did a pretty good job with that. I do have kids, and with everyone trampling in and out, I do have these all-weather mats that came with it when I bought it, and I've kept them down the entire time, which really helps the interior stay pretty clean. They're a little dirty right now from mud. We just had a whole bunch of rain here in Central Texas over the 4th of July weekend, and so there was a lot of mud situations going on, so they're a little dirty. This is a in-use family car. In the back seat, I do have 2 out of my 3 kids are in some sort of chair right now. My youngest is in this chair here. I do find that even having him all the way back in the furthest back position, that with the way his feet sit, like here, if he moves them just a little bit, I definitely get kicked in the back, and you can feel it. I feel like for an SUV this size that there should be a little bit more room here, but overall, especially if you're if you have larger people with like longer legs and stuff, there is plenty of leg room when you consider all the under space and all that. But for kids that are using this smallest spot here between the chair to chair, I do find that like I do get kicked quite often. And it would be nice if this chair moved anyway more backwards in that. For having 3 kids, so I usually have my 3rd row up. The 3rd row is not very comfortable, in my opinion, for very long durations. So let me see if I can zoom out a little bit more. So it looks nice, and overall you can sit in here with the 3rd row. I'm 6 foot, and my knees barely touch on this side and don't touch on this side. And I do have like foot room if I put them in here. I definitely would not put 2 or 3 of me back here, but you can make it if you're just trying to haul some people and carpool. But these bottom seats are very firm, in my opinion. Even though to the touch you feel them and you're like, wow, that feels really cushy. Because they're very thin to allow them to lay down, the seats after a while, these are very fatiguing seats. I wouldn't want to spend more than an hour back here personally. In a car trip, but I do like that they have like cup holders and space and some USB ports and stuff. It is a functional 3rd row, and there is a good gap here even with armrests up. In other cars, like we have a Toyota Grand Highlander, this space can get real tight between the 2 captain's chairs, especially with accounting for the armrests. And when like our oldest son is trying to get in between this, I can find that is a like a squeeze in a gymnastics thing that they have to do. So even as an adult, I can fit through pretty well, but I do have to crouch to get in and out, which is a SUV type thing. Going back to the back, I do like that they have the split. You can open just the glass, or you can open everything. It's a very handy feature to have. Cargo room in the back here is pretty solid if you're not getting a Suburban or something larger. You can definitely fit lots of luggage back here. For a family of 5, it gets kind of tight. And so you have to be very smart and Tetris-y. A lot of times when we're doing trips where we need to take luggage, we'll lay down this single seat to give our son more space here, and we'll lay down this seat to give us some more cargo space there. That's part of the things I don't like about this, is that in order to get to be in the best seating position, you have to be all the way back. But then if you want to lay the seats down, you still have to kind of come up here and move this chair about 1 or 2 clicks forward in order to be able to lay this seat down. So you do still have to kind of do the the jaunt back and forth. That is power closing, but not power lifting. So you can basically lay it down, but not pull it back up power. So this is how our usual setup looks like as a family of 5. We'll lay that one down, and then that gives us plenty of space for stuff like that. So my biggest reason that I went with a regular Yukon and not a Yukon XL is I drove the Yukon XL, and especially for whatever reason here in Texas, everything's bigger except parking spaces for the most part, and trying to park that back when I got it to the dealership was near impossible. And if I could barely park it at the dealership, I knew that tight grocery parking lots and other things like that would definitely be a challenge, and I didn't want something that was going to be a big challenge. So this one with the tighter wheelbase on it and not so much end space was the perfect match. My experience with the engine and the fuel is very simple. You do have to remember that in modern diesels you do have DEF. I haven't found it to be a horrible experience. A lot of people complain about it, but I fill it up maybe once a quarter is kind of my typical, unless we're doing big road trips. And when we do road trips, you'll fill it up with DEF an extra time sometimes like that. I don't find it to be extremely expensive or time consuming or an issue. You can find DEF very easily at most gas stations. Some gas stations even have it at the pump, which is convenient. So I haven't really had any problems with it. It's green for diesel. It's very easy. When I explain it to people who borrow the Yukon, friends and family, I'm just like, green for diesel, don't touch the blue lid. It's very simple. I don't find that to be, that I worry about it too much. It can be if you mess things up and put DEF in the tank, that can be an issue. That pretty much just means you have to fully evacuate the whole fuel system, and if you've turned it on with it in, then you have to do all this work, and that can be really expensive. So as long as you're diligent and paying attention, I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue for most people. I find filling it up is very easy, just like anywhere else. My biggest qualm is that Costco in most places doesn't sell diesel, so you have to go to other gas stations that are a little bit more expensive, but little trade-offs here and there. One thing I have found, I'll turn it over for you. My LM2 suffers from the known issue of the long crank, which is that it takes longer than you would expect. It takes like an extra cycle to turn on. So that is a known issue. There's really only a couple ways to fix it. They weren't gonna fix it for me under warranty with the crankshaft positioning sensor. So I decided I wasn't going to deal with it because I haven't had any issues besides the fact that it takes one cycle longer to crank than what you would expect. So I've got the remote here, and I pretty much always remote start it before I get in to let it cool down or warm up. So that little ticking na, I find by 2, most cars would have turned on. This one takes 3 to go. It's not the end of the world. I don't find it to be a big deal. That's the fans kicking on because it's 90 something degrees here in Central Texas today, so it is warm. Driving it, I love the drive of this thing. It's not fast by any means. I think the 0 to 60 is like 7+ seconds in this. It's got 280 something horsepower, 300 and something pound-feet of torque. I've towed with it once or twice in like the little U-Haul trailers as we were moving houses locally. I haven't had any issues with that. It did a great job. It does eat fuel when you do that. I think driving 100 miles round trip to pick it up, take it to my old house, drive it to my new house, and then drop it back off. It drops my average fuel economy from 20 to 17. So it does drink fuel when you're towing, but I think that's kind of come to be expected when you're towing anything. So let's hop in with the car on. So let me turn the AC down. So, don't want the radio. So yeah, I've got almost 44,000 miles on it. Right now, I've used about a quarter of a tank. I'm getting 20.3 mpg, and I did idle this morning at my son's OT appointment for about 45 minutes straight in this. So that's probably why it's so low at the moment. Usually it's probably closer to 20.7, 21 and a half, somewhere in there. I also, something I always do is I turn off the auto start stop on mine. I don't find that when I tried it, it saved any fuel that I noticed having it on. And it does, especially with mine having the like cranking issue, that I find that it just takes too long for my personal preferences when you let off the brake to go for the engine to cut back on and for you to be able to go. It takes about 3 seconds, which is long enough for someone definitely to honk at you. By the time you like put your foot off the brake, the engine turns on and you press on the gas, like those, I think those seconds matter, and I just don't like it. I feel like it's very jerky, and I turn it off on mine. So that is something I've done. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay, and this is a 21. I think that's definitely a huge selling point. My Lincolns, both of them were wired CarPlay, and it is a little bit annoying to have to wire it in all the time, especially with that. So I definitely love wireless. So right now I've got the AC seat on. I live with AC seats. I think they're one of the best inventions for modern cars. I personally like having it running. My husband almost never uses it. He doesn't care, doesn't really think it matters, and he thinks it feels kind of, in quotes, wet sometimes, so he keeps his off. I always have mine on. Let's see. I've covered a lot of my dislikes. Real world driving, it drives smooth, it drives very well. I get great gas mileage in it. I really love all those features about it. Cons is the 4x4 system is very, very clunky and antiquated. You don't have to be in neutral to turn it on. You can hit auto, and it'll switch to auto up here, and you can do that while driving. I try to keep that under. I haven't really found good documentation on what the max speed is to switch to auto. I try to do it under 50 miles per hour because that's where I felt was safe. And it didn't have any issues doing with that. I'm sure you can go faster and do that, especially in wet, slippery conditions. That's where I usually find myself switching while driving, is in wet and slippery conditions where it's raining a whole bunch. We'll get torrential downpours, and I just like the extra safety of having all 4 tires moving. And so I'll switch it to auto. But for the most part, I drive it in 2-wheel drive for day-to-day. It drives better, cleaner. And then the other issue I find in the 4x4, which is very typical of like these like true 4x4 systems, is as you get towards the end of your crank, you start feeling that kind of like pop, pop, pop in the front end. And I don't like that. I feel like something's breaking. So you either have to like reduce the amount of turn you're giving it or turn off the 4x4. I think there's so many systems that have done it better. Lincoln's does not feel that way in their 4x4 system. From my experience with my Navigator, their all-wheel drive system is very nice, that I had in my Aviator. And then there's other systems out there, but for whatever reason, this one in this Yukon, I haven't tried like the Sierra or whatever based on similar platforms. I just don't like how it feels a lot. So I only have had to use it a few times when it got really icy or when I went up to Montana and was going off-road. And it worked great doing those things. I just feel like it's very old school, and when you get towards that end of that crank, it does not feel good. It does, for a car this size, have a fantastic turning radius. They do squeal the tires a lot, even though the tires aren't bald. If you get to the end of your turn, you're just tilting your wheels to such a degree that I do find that they'll squeal a lot in like low parking lot situations, and you're making that tight turn. I'll get some squeal, and I laugh to myself. So those are a lot of the dislikes. Is the 4x4 system I feel is a little clunky and old school, but does work well. The second row seats, having to adjust them forward and backwards to get the third row up and down is kind of cumbersome and annoying. That's more of a quality of life issue than like a true I can't live with it situation. And there being a long crank on the engine, I find that to be, again, just a quality of life thing, where if it didn't do that, I would personally feel a little bit better, but it doesn't affect the way that the engine behaves, the lifespan of the engine. I'm sure it probably a little bit on the starter, using extra crank every single time will probably wear it out slightly faster, but going with the fact that I turned the auto start stop off, you know, it is what it is. So if I had to do it all over again, I would have totally bought this again. I would have bought this exact one. I like the color. I was really hoping for like a white color, but I do like having it blue. I think it's a very pretty blue. Definitely the rim upgrade was a small, very inexpensive. I spent $1,600 at Discount Tire to do that, and it definitely made the world of difference in how it looks to me and my happiness with it. And getting rid of the curb rash tires that they had on those definitely helped. I love the way it drives. It's so simple and easy. The way they designed it, it does drive very tight like a car, and a lot of times I can fit it in most places. I have no problem driving it around town. Even downtown, I've taken it in downtown Austin, which I don't know if you've driven in there, can be real tight and really hard to navigate. And I don't have problems with this doing that. So overall, quite happy with this car, all that it's done. My other dislike, and I think my last dislike, is that maintenance is quite expensive here, like at dealers. And I find that the Texas dealerships that I've been to for GMC and Chevrolet, I've tried several of them out around where I live, and they're just terrible. I know that's a lot of dealerships, but the service department, I feel like the quality of the GM and Chevy dealerships here is not great, but a step above the Ford and Lincoln dealerships I had. And one of the reasons why I got rid of the Lincoln in the first place was that I had tried every Ford and Lincoln dealership within an hour, and either that they had long wait times where it was taking you, over a month to get in to service for issues, or they didn't even want to like give you the time of day, or when your car went there, you never heard from them and you had to constantly keep calling and hitting voicemail trying to get updates for your vehicle. And it just drove me nuts that you had to do that. So I will say the GM and Chevrolet dealerships here have been better, but not that great. And that is a very big annoyance when you're spending quite a bit of money on maintenance for a vehicle at the dealership and they suck. So that's definitely a big thing. But I do have a warranty on this, so almost everything I've done on this besides routine stuff has been free. But with the diesel oil changes, they're a little bit more than a standard oil change. They're like $160 every time I do them. I've been trying to find a good like diesel person around here, and it was just very iffy, and it was just easier to go to the dealership for what I've done so far. But yeah, I've been trying to find a good one for a while, and never really made it a top priority. Luckily, this hasn't really needed anything more than routine maintenance since I've had it. I haven't needed to do, I think there was one recall I had to do on it at some point, and it was a software update for the rear differential. So I guess at like highway speeds and certain conditions, the rear differential was locking up on some of these 4x4s. And so now they put a software fix in place. They didn't actually fix the issue. There's just a software fix in place that will tell you before that happens, so you can take it into the dealership and get it fixed. But so that took an hour and a half for them to do that, and that was free. But everything else has been routine maintenance. So overall, I would sum up this car as a fantastic family car, especially on road trips and stuff like that. With the way the Third row is up. If you have more than 4 or 5 people, the ability for you to carry luggage starts dwindling very quickly. Even though that this has some of the best in class rear cargo space behind the third for SUVs in the third row, it still can get really tight for a family of 5. And then like adding in anyone else, if you're bringing along a friend or a family member outside that to go with you on that, all of a sudden you're out of space. So before going to the airport and hauling 7 of us, I've had to stack the aisle with luggage and stack the back with luggage. Everyone's had to have backpacks in their laps. So you can make it work, especially if you're only just going to go to the airport, which for us is about an hour drive. But if you're going to go on a road trip with that many people, that would not be the most fun. Other than that, I feel like this car is well planted when you drive it. The driving experience, I don't have any real complaints with. I think it drives smooth. You feel very in command. Like, this is pretty much your view when you're driving this. You can see very well besides like what's right in front of you. But this does have the 360 cam. So if I'm ever in a spot where I'm not quite sure what's going on, or you're reversing, which I find to be very helpful, you do have the 360 cam, which helps you get multiple angles. So you can see out the front and the back. You can zoom into different places. You can see down the side of your car. And then there's some trailering options as well. So like you get a lot of view in this car from the inside here, which I think is just totally necessary when you've got a car this size. It makes me feel better that if I'm pulling out of a neighborhood and I'm not quite sure, I saw a kid run around and I'm not quite sure where they are at this moment, I can turn on the 360 cam before I pull out and just make sure that I'm being extra safe. So that's pretty awesome. It's a commanding spot. It feels good. It looks good. A lot of cars I have a Cadillac Lyric as well for some in-town driving that I've been doing. And when you don't want to haul this big family hauler to Target or wherever. And I find that the way they designed it looks really nice for the AC unit, but they're like little slits. You just can't, on a really hot summer day, you just can't feel like the AC keeps up. I've never had that problem in this car. I feel like it's always too cold in here. Like right now, it's 91 degrees outside plus humidity, and I've got it set to 70 and not low, because if I turn it to low, I freeze in here. So I think that all the components work really well. Everything, the fit and finish is really nice. Like this is soft touch up here. You've got it like coming down into this area. The color tones look really well together in my opinion. Even in the black, which I think is a little boring, it looks very, very upscale and nice. I just like a little bit more visual appeal. They've got this strip of wood running on both on the doors, even in the back here. They've got it running up here in the front, along here, all the way around. You've got the soft touch stitching at the top. That's really nice. Really well padded, like really well padded on here on the side where you rest your arm a lot. Then I do like the divide here. I'll put my phone here most of the time because, again, the charger doesn't work very well for me. So I'll put my phone here, and then you can have your arm here. Extra cup holders come in handy so well. You've got them in the door as well. Up. Sorry, I'm trying to point. I guess you can't see it because it's in the door. So you got some down there. My kids have them in their car seats. You got them up here. So you got quite a good amount of cup holders in here to hold on to drinks and stuff. Again, the way that like climbing up into here feels, like you feel really good about driving it. I just love the overall like aesthetics and the positioning that it puts you in. You feel very much in command. Everything's really easy to see. You can see around big trucks still really well, and small cars and stuff like that. I will say that you have this massive blind spot through here, like this massive pillar, plus this, which I've seen in other cars like my husband's Grand Highlander. They put a window here, and like it's not even attached. It's down on the door, but they didn't put anything here, which I've lost pedestrians in here before, and having someone here being like, hey, watch out, pedestrian, and you're like, oh wow, like I didn't even see you over there, like I lost that whole person. as they were walking. And so I find that, but it does have blind spot monitoring, which is helpful to keep track of things. The mirrors are nice and large, so you can see really well. Like I get a very good view of everything that's there. And then you do have this big chunky blind spot here, which again, the blind spot monitoring is what that's there to help with. But looking around your shoulder doesn't always help, because that is a massive blind spot. But the big mirrors really help with that. Overall, I would totally buy this again. I think it's a great truck. It's got, it's held its value really well for me. What I paid for it, I bought it used at 2 years ago, and then 2 years later, it's held the value really well. These are really good, solid cars that are holding value well. These are more desirable from what I've been reading and seeing. In my opinion, these are more desirable than the gas ones. People are hearing so much about all these engines failing and that GM doesn't have enough engines and fixes in place to do that. People are waiting months and months for their V8s to be fixed. There are a few known issues with this. Like a coolant control temperature valve is one of the big things, and those are on back order for this. So that's the one thing that if you get unlucky enough, that could really affect you on that. I haven't had any issues with this one. This one's run like a dream for me. It just, like, it starts up and you go. The one thing about having a diesel that if you don't already know, or if you're new to diesels, is that letting them turn on and warm up and get to their operating temperature or pretty close to it before you put any sort of load on it. Like, I'll leave all the time because I've got kids and need to go. I'll leave all the time right after it comes up over the 160 mark. But you better believe I am like light footing that through. I've got a long neighborhood. I've got like a mile before like leaving my driveway and then getting out to the street, where I'm just coasting at 20 miles an hour through my neighborhood, and then hitting the stop sign and then going back. So I'm never getting over 2,000 RPMs on it before it gets to the full operating temperature. It helps with the life of the engine, and it does help with the overall performance of it. That's something I've always done, and so far it's paid off for me in that I haven't had any unexpected issues with maintenance happen with it. So I don't get crazy. There's some people that are like, I won't even like set foot in the thing until it's at 210. Some of the best advice I got early on when I bought this, as also new to diesels, was that these engines are meant to be like used and abused. That's what the diesels are. Like, they're meant to be used, so use them. I grocery haul this thing all the time, meaning like I'll go and drop the kids off and come home, and that's a 10-minute drive there and a 10-minute drive back, and it's all of 3 or 4 miles, and I'll turn it back off again. So the car's been on for less than 20 minutes. Or I'll go drive to the grocery store and turn it off, and that was an 8-minute drive. I do that all the time on these short, tiny little trips, and I haven't had any issues with the emissions system or the engine or any sort of stuff. I do get it up on the highway and will also drive it, which is what you should be doing if you're doing a lot of what I call grocery getting, errands around town, little short spurts, is that just try and get it up on the highway once a month, get it up towards that 60, 70, 80, and let it drive, like let it go for 20 or 30 minutes to let the emission system like kick in and clean the filter. It automatically does it, and it's very smart about it. I very rarely notice it. I notice when it turns on, when that number starts dropping down very quickly, because it will drop your MPG temporarily when that system's on, to like clear out the filter and all that. So that's the one thing I will know, is that when that system's running, I lose it all the time. With that, I'll usually drop a whole MPG when that system kicks in. I don't find it happens all the time. Very rarely for me is my kind of opinion on it. I mean, again, once a quarter, I'm refilling to death, and I've driven basically 12,000 miles a year. So not crazy, but I do have other cars. I have 2 other vehicles that I drive, so I can spread all those miles out, but I would have no problem putting even more miles on this. I mean, I just drove like 3,000 miles round trip last month to Montana and back, and I did refuel the DEF. It was at half a tank when I started the trip, and by the time I was on my way back, I needed to put some in. I didn't have to, but I felt more comfortable doing that because I got the 1,000-mile warning at like 750 miles to go, and I was like, not even gonna try and do that. Buc-ee's had DEF at the pump. It was super easy. So again, I find that the DEF is super simple, and there is a nice little display here on how that works. I don't know how accurate it is, to be honest. A lot of people comment on that. I don't know how accurate it is either. So that is something to pay attention to. But usually when it gets to about 2 bars down here, when it gets to about 2 or 3 bars, that's when I'll be like, I'll just go buy one deal of DEF. It's a 5-gallon tank, I believe, for the DEF. So you put one of those things in and you should be pretty close back up to 3/4 or full. I do like the screen here. So if you get the next generation up, the next model year up, the 22s, they go to a full digital display. I just really liked the mileage, the price, and the way this one looked, and the interior color of this one so much better than a 22 that was available. It would have cost like another $3,000, plus it was black inside, and then the exterior was gray, which isn't my favorite color on cars. Like my husband loves gray cars, not my favorite. I'd drive it if I had to, but this one, just for everything else being perfect on this car, and this being like this analog display on both sides with the gauges in the middle, I thought that was a total fine compromise. I like it overall. Like this is pretty much the main thing I focus on, is my speed and how much fuel I've got left. And I do like knowing the temperature. It's really easy to find. So those are like my things that I look at anyways. So whether like the rest is kind of analog, or like, you know, the screen isn't huge, doesn't bother me that much. If you have a Yukon, please comment down what you like about yours, what you don't like about yours. If you're a gas engine Yukon driver, please tell me how your experience has been with either the 5.3 liter, or is it? Yeah, it's a 5.3 liter or the 6.2 liter V8. Have you had any problems? If you're a fellow diesel baby Duramax driver, then comment your experience with yours, if you have the LM2 or the LZ0. I hope you found some of these items to be interesting or helpful if you're purchasing or looking at purchasing the diesel engine option of the Yukon, or a Yukon in general, that you like some of this. Again, my name's Austin, and I appreciate you watching. Take care for now.